Hi guys, this is my motherboard from Gigabyte X870 Elite Wi-Fi 7, and there are two revisions for now. Revision 1.0 for the MediaTek and revision 1.1 for the Realtek chipset, and this is the 1.1. You have some weight. Okay. And this is the back panel of the motherboard. As you can see from the most left, there is the Wi-Fi connector 2x2 MIMO for the Realtek chipset of the Wi-Fi 7 implementation. That is only utilized of the Wi-Fi 7 half spectrum. The full spectrum is 320 MHz, while this Gigabyte implementation is only 160 MHz. And talk about Wi-Fi 7. As far as I know, it requires Windows 11 rather than Windows 10. Windows 10, there should be a driver issue to implement the Wi-Fi 7. So for those that want to make sure of a Wi-Fi 7, well, I guess we have no choice now but to use the Windows 11 instead of the Windows 10. Okay, and then we have the 4 unit of the USB 4, and then another 6 unit of the USB 3.2, and we have a HDMI port, which I believe most people that bought this board will unlikely to use. Well, we will most likely use a dedicated graphic card, and it has a 2 unit of the USB 4 port. Okay, this is what separates the X870 series compared to the B850 series. B850 series do not have this USB 4 port. Okay, what is the use of this USB 4 with a very high speed? Well, example, we can use it for if you are a photographer, you can use it for the very high speed CX Express card reader, that you can cut down the reading speed in the computer in a much faster time frame. Okay, and then on the right side you have all the multimedia sounds slot, including the digital out. Okay, here is the AM5 socket for the processors, which is supporting the series 7000 Gen 4, series 8000 Gen 4, as well as the series 9000 Gen 5, as well as expecting the new generation of processor from AMD. So, and you can see there's a huge VRM heatsink, which is very nice to take away the heat from the high power VRM, also sometimes known as the MOS chips. And here the implementation is 16 phases for the CPU. In fact, actually it's 8+8, and this is actually also important. Okay, each phases actually practically support about 20 watt of the power for the CPU. So if you multiply with that, we have over 200 watt the power that can be supplied for the processors. So it means these 60 phases actually not only can support today's let's say 9950X or X3D, or include the futures AMD processor. Who knows, it might come up with a 24 cores that are expecting maybe over 200 watt. So if you want a future proof, if you plan to upgrade your processor, from time to time, so this X870 motherboard actually is more future proof as compared with, let's say, you're getting a B850 or the M80X motherboard. Okay. By the way, as far as I know, X870 series motherboard is only available in a full ATX form. Okay, and here is the EPS connector, which is a supply additional power to the board. If you are using just 8-core AMD processors, Ryzen 5, 7, actually one port should be sufficient. But if you are using the Ryzen 9, like 9950X, it is better to plug in both, but there's no harm, even you are using just a Ryzen 5 or 7, there's no harm plugging this both EPS connector. As far as I know, virtually all the power supply already coming up with these two EPS already connected, and some motherboard even equipped with the third EPS connector. Okay, and this is the standard ATX power source. Okay, moving to here, this is the DIMM slot for the memory. Well, on the paper, it mentioned that it supports 4 times 64 gigabyte, which total in a 256 gigabyte of RAM. Yes, the motherboard do support it, but not for today's processor. For the Ryzen 7000 series Zen 4, actually its slot will only support 32 gig per slot. Okay, and it means it cut the amount to half. 4 times 32 equal to 128 gigabyte. But for those that looking for high capacity of RAM, we can practically only use 2 slots. Example, the second one and the fourth slot. So, and each slot only for 32. So 32 times 2 is only 64 gigabyte. The reason is that if we buy the 32 gigabyte RAM, it is in a rank 2 design. So in a rank 2 design, if we fulfill fill out all these 4 slots, then it will cause a stability problem due to the high frequency. And in order to make it stable, we have to down clock it to around 3600 mega transfer. So I'm not sure who can accept this kind of slow transfer rate, with 3600 mega transfer. So I personally assume that practically, let's say you are 7000 series, then the max that you can go is 32 times 2, okay, which means 64 gigabyte of RAM for now. Okay, but if you are using 16 gigabyte module, yep, I believe you can fill out this 4 slot without the performance issue, because 16 gigabyte, as far as I know, most of them are still a rank 1. But again, 16 times 4 is still 64, so you still can't go beyond 64 with the Ryzen 7000 series. And with the Ryzen 9000 series, then each slot actually is increased to 48 gigabyte. So which means the highest capacity practically that you can have for now with 2 slots is 48 times 2, which is 96 gigabyte. But last check, well, the 48 gigabyte module is quite expensive. It's basically double the price of 32 gigabyte. So the cost value for money is not really there. That is my personal opinion, and I believe in the coming Gen 6 11000 series, so this motherboard will truly able to shine with, you know, its slot having a 64 gig, you know, then we can enjoy the 128 gig. But how about for those that need, you know, higher capacity of memory? Well, you can always buy the workstation motherboard, which well, you can upgrade up to even 1 terabyte of memory, which is more than enough for virtually anyone. Well, and followed by the primary PCI Express slot, which having the PCI Express 5.0 times 16, which is great for the latest generation of NVIDIA 50 series, as well as the AMD version. And there's a special release slot, okay, which make life easier, you know, especially with the big card. Okay, and everything is toothless. Impressed, you know. You don't need a screwdriver in order to release the NVMe slot. Okay. Yep. Okay. And here have another 3 PCI Express times 4 for the each of the M2 slot, but it is okay. Do pay notice that for the first M2 is recommended to use always use the first one, as well as the primary for the graphic card. For the rest of the M2 slot here, where the first, these two is the PCI Express 5, impressive, and this is a PCI Express 4.0. They are actually, these 3 and these 2 slot actually are sharing the PCI LAN from the chipset. So there will be a limitation if you are trying to use the either this slot or the M2 slot. Okay. Yeah, and also pay attention that if you are using the 8000 series, one of the issue with 8000 series is that they have less PCI Express lane externally. So these 3 M.2 should not able to use due to the lack of the PCI lane. But if you are using a 7000 series and 9000 series, have no issue. Okay, but is that they will have a conflict with these 2. You know, you can only use either. But anyway, for most users, I believe that we only need the primary, the PCI Express slot for the graphic card, as well as the main NVMe SSD slot for this. Okay, and maybe we need another one. Okay, and here we also have the 4 of the SATA port, which is used to connect to the, let's say you have an optical drive that is known as a CD, DVD and Blu-ray drive, which I think is not so useful by today's standard. Okay, but it's extremely useful to connect to the hard disk HDD. Okay, I love HDD. I always use support, you know, hard disk since day one, even today. Well, why? The reason is very simple, man. You can buy an 18 gigabyte hard disk for affordable price, and well, you can store plenty of things there. A lot of games, you know. Now the games, good games, easily over what 100 gigabyte just for one single game. If you have 1 terabyte of SSD, well, how many games can you store? And I read that, you know, the coming GTA 6 itself is about 1 terabyte. So, what kind of storage are you going to store it? Yes, everyone know HDD, you know, hard disk is much slower if compared with the SSD, right? But what is the use if you know, you don't have a capacity to store in the first place, right? So I think hard disk is the very, you know, cost-effective and practical storage. That's my personal opinion, you know. If it's not enough, you can go to 36 gig, you know, and well, they are coming 60 terabyte of hard disk, even well, much bigger than I believe that can fulfill virtually most of the consumer needs. Well, that's me.